America, stop what you're doing and look at this. Protests are erupting right now in the streets of Washington, D.C. Crowds are furious, chanting, screaming, calling President Donald J. Trump a fascist. They're waving signs. They're blocking intersections. They're claiming that their city is under siege. Guys, but here's the twist that the media will not tell you. Those protests are happening for one reason, because Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi just dropped the hammer. In fact, this weekend alone, federal officers working side by side with D.C. police, they pulled 21 illegal guns off the street, including an assault rifle. In total, 59 weapons have been seized since Trump ordered the DOJ to federalize DC policing. Guys, the nation's capital, once one of the most dangerous cities in America, it's suddenly safer than it's been in years. Families they're walking the monuments again, restaurants are filling back up, and the left absolutely hates it. So now you got to ask yourself, is this the price for safety, or is this exactly what leadership looks like? I mean, seriously, because tonight we're going to dive into the full story. Bondi's ultimate sanctuary cities, the lawsuits about to hit New York and San Francisco, the graffiti and homelessness encampments finally being cleared off DC streets, and why the protests are exploding louder with every single gun pulled off the street. So here's the kicker, folks. This battle in DC isn't just about crime. It's about who controls the narrative of America itself. Trump says museums, they're glorifying failure. Protesters are saying that he's erasing history. The fight over law and order is now colliding with the fight over culture, the fight over economics, and the fight, even the fight over America's soul. So anyway, by the end of this video, you're gonna have to choose for yourself. You're gonna have to choose between law and order with Trump and Bondi, or chaos in the streets with their critics. Now, trust me, you're not gonna want to miss this. Hit the like button if you appreciate the news updates. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. So Washington, D.C. is clearly a very divided city right now. So on the one side of the street, you're going to see protesters waving signs, chanting fascist, and accusing the Trump administration of authoritarianism. Now, on the other side of the street, you see families walking the monuments again, restaurants filling back up, and locals whispering thank you to police officers who finally made their neighborhood safe again. This is literally the contrast right now in our nation's capital. Protesters saying America is slipping into tyranny. But the numbers tell a completely different story. DC, once again, is one of the deadliest cities in the country, and it's finally being taken back. And it's happening under the direct orders of President Donald J. Trump. And folks, this isn't rhetoric, this is action. Attorney General Pam Bondi just dropped the hammer. At Trump's directive, the Department of Justice has officially federalized policing in Washington, D.C. So this means this isn't just local police anymore. This is the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, U.S. Marshals, Park Police, even the National Guard. They're all working hand in hand. And the results, guys, in just days, law enforcement seized 59 illegal firearms, 21 of those just this past weekend, including an assault rifle hidden under the seat of a car. I don't even understand how he hid an assault rifle under the seat. Anyway, they did it. So this is the kind of weapon that could have ended lives in a matter of seconds, and instead it is now off the streets. So, it's not just about the guns, though. For the first time in years, agencies are finally unified. They're operating out of a joint command center every single night. Federal officers are literally pairing up with the Metro Police and the Transit Police. They're walking the streets together. They're making arrests side by side. There's no turf wars. There's no bureaucratic red tape. It's just results. And so now here's the situation. Supporters are calling this taking back the Capitol. Critics are calling it militarization. Now, which is it, guys? The same people furious in the streets tonight, they would rather have chaos than have cops. But ask yourself, who do you trust more? The law-abiding men and women who are risking their lives trying to clean up the city, or the crowd screaming while families finally feel safe again? See, and this is just the beginning, guys, because what Trump and Bondi are doing in DC right now, this is setting the stage for something even bigger, a nationwide showdown over sanctuary cities, federal funding, and the future of law and order in America. Now, before we get there, we need to talk about what else Trump has ordered for the Capitol. We're talking about graffiti scrubbed from monuments, homelessness encampments cleared, these boarded up businesses restored. Hey, there's some good news actually coming into DC, believe it or not. The same streets that were written off as lost causes, they're now places where families can walk safely again. So can I get an amen for that, right? So let's try something. If you could save money, keep your doctors, and get more benefits without spending a dime for advice. Does that make sense? Like, if a team could review every plan available in the country, and there's like 24,000 plans available, and puts your needs first, not the insurance companies, wouldn't that be worth it? Well, guys, this is why I partner with Chapter, because they don't sell you anything. They educate, they ask the right questions, and then they let you decide. This is exactly why people like Leslie Taylor say, hey, Ron, I saved $1,000 a year. And this is why so many others are finally feeling secure in their retirement. So let me ask again, does it make sense to at least check and find out like what options you have available? Guys, this is exactly why most people are already calling the number at the bottom of your screen right now, 909-563-8279, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron on the internet, because the smart move is the one that everybody else is already making. So give them a call now. So now let's talk about the part of the story that the media does not want you to see, because beyond the arrests and the gun seizures, President Trump gave another order through Pam Bondi: clean up the Capitol. Now, for years, Washington, D.C. has been a complete mess. Beautiful businesses spray painted with graffiti. Historic monuments have been defaced. Sidewalks blocked by sprawling homelessness encampments. Tourists stopped coming to the city. Families avoided downtown. The city our children have read about in history books had pretty much just turned into a place that most people were scared to go to. But under Trump's direction, all of this is changing. Crews are scrubbing graffiti off the monuments. The homeless camps that politicians ignored for decades are finally being addressed. People being redirected into proper services instead of being left to rot on the sidewalks. Businesses are reopening, and boarded up shops, they're finally pulling down the plywood for probably the first time in years, probably even since like the pandemic and the BLM riots and movements. And so, yes, you can see it on the faces of everyday people. Families, they're walking through the Smithsonian again. Parents they're finally taking their kids to the National Zoo. I mean, locals are whispering thank you to officers as they're passing by, pretty much saying that, they finally feel safe to walk their own neighborhoods again. So now, of course, the protest crowd, they're out there, they're calling it cruel, saying it's an attack on the vulnerable. They're reframing it as an erasure. So here's the question that really burns. Is it heartless to clear encampments and restore order, or is it heartless to let Americans' capital collapse into chaos? Like, which is it? It can't be both. And if you think that the cleanup in D.C. has the left screaming, wait until you hear what Pam Bondi has planned next, because this isn't staying in Washington, D.C. That's right, guys. Pam Bondi just lit the fuse on a nationwide sanctuary city shutdown. So she sent 32 letters to mayors and 7 letters to governors all across America, guys. The message was blunt. It was very clear. Cooperate with ICE or lose your federal funding. She's about to close that checkbook on them, guys. So if local leaders refuse to protect their citizens, Trump's DOJ is prepared to send in federal law enforcement, just like they did in DC. Cities like New York, Boston, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, they're all on the list. And get this, guys, New York is already being sued by the DOJ. More lawsuits are coming, and the National Guard deployments, well, those are not a bluff. Pam Bondi says, they're already ready to move if cities keep stonewalling the federal law enforcement. So now supporters are saying this is the first real effort to protect Americans from sanctuary policies that put criminals back on the streets. Critics, of course, they're calling it government overreach, claiming that Trump is punishing cities for political reasons, which is not true. But here's the unavoidable situation. Like, do you stand with local politicians who shield illegal aliens from arrest, or do you stand with federal officers trying to keep guns, gangs, and criminals out of your neighborhood? I think that the choice is clear here. But what do you guys think on that one? Now, here's where it gets even hotter, though. The same protests that you're seeing in D.C. tonight, they're about to spread nationwide because sanctuary cities, they're already bracing for impact. So here's where the streets light up. Columbia Heights, Washington, D.C. This is the heart of the protests. Crowds are screaming fascism, signs calling President Trump a dictator, chants echoing through the neighborhoods, accusing Pam Bondi's DOJ of militarization. But let's be real. What really triggered this outrage? Not corruption, not a scandal, the crime that they're furious about. This is law enforcement taking illegal guns off the streets. That's right, guys. 21 firearms, pulled in a single weekend, and suddenly the left claims America's under tyranny. Here's the situation. When criminals are getting caught, when neighborhoods are getting safer, and when parents finally feel like they can kind of like let their kids play outside again, why are the protesters mad about that? Like, could it be because chaos is exactly what they thrive on? Oh, and of course, it doesn't stop there. The rage in the streets is tied to something even deeper. Trump's direct assault on what he calls the last fortress of woke in America, the museums. Now, Trump posted that the Smithsonian and the museums across the country, they're pushing an endless message of how horrible America is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Now, his critics went wild over that. They shouted slavery was bad. Museums are supposed to show the dark truth of our history. But here's the real contradiction. These are the same people who defend keeping up Confederate statues of slaveholders in public parks, calling it history. Yet when museums present America's greatness alongside its failures, suddenly they're screaming that Trump wants to erase the past. So let's go ahead and put the cards on the table here today. Trump isn't saying hide the history. He's saying don't let our national institutions turn into propaganda machines that only focus on failure. Remind America's children about our victories, our innovations, and our future. So now Bondi's DOJ is reviewing how these museums are funded, and with attorneys preparing to launch the same kind of review that they use to clean up corrupt universities. So that's about to get interesting, and that is the spark. This is why protests are exploding in DC tonight. It's also not just about the crime, it's also about who controls America's story. And so this really kind of brings us to this next fault line, the economy. Now, Trump, he's taken aim at Jerome Powell and the Fed, accusing them of strangling families with the highest interest rates. Supporters say Trump is defending affordability. Critics say he's just deflecting blame as bankruptcies rise. Now, let's just cut into it, okay? Because while the streets of DC are erupting, another battle, it's raging behind the scenes. It's the economy. President Trump, he's locked in a showdown with Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Trump says Powell's high interest rates are crushing the housing market. He's saying that Powell's interest rates are strangling working families who cannot even get a mortgage that they can afford and holding back an economy that should be roaring right now. Now, folks, here's the truth. Trump promised affordability for the American people. That's why he's hammering Jerome Powell, because right now inflation is hitting families at the grocery stores. Bankruptcies are climbing higher than they were during the pandemic. Electricity costs, I don't know if you check your electricity bill, your light bill is up 38% over the last 5 years. Families are being squeezed from every angle. Supporters, they see Trump as the only one who's willing to call out the elitist bankers who play these games with the economy while Americans are drowning in debt. Now, critics, of course, they're screaming that he's just scapegoating Powell in order to cover his own policies. Now, once again, here's the question. Is Trump the defender of working families fighting against a rigged system? Or, as the protesters chant, is he the problem? Like, which is it, guys? But here's where the story goes international, and it's pretty big. Because Trump's decision at home, it's not just rattling DC. They're shaking the world, guys. Critics point to Ukraine, to Gaza, to unrest overseas, blaming Trump for fueling instability. Guys, they say he's empowering Vladimir Putin, straining allies and wrecking decades of global diplomacy. But look a little bit closer here, because here's what Trump's really doing. Putting America first, stronger tariffs, tougher borders, real law and order in our cities. That's not weakness. That's clearly strength. So while the critics are chanting in the streets, Trump is forcing foreign governments to rethink their entire relationship with the United States, which is a very good thing since we've been taken advantage of for so long. And so, yes, that does have some consequences. India, for example, they're flirting with closer ties to China. Now, this is a move that critics blame on Trump, but Trump's camp says it's exactly these tough stances that will finally reveal who our real partners are and who just wants to freeload off of American strength. So again, we're left with this situation. Is Trump isolating America or finally protecting Americans from being used by the globalist elite? And so, of course, That brings us to the final dilemma here, guys, because no matter how loud these protests are getting, no matter how many headlines scream authoritarianism, the numbers on the ground in Washington, D.C., they're telling a completely different story. The Capitol is safer today than it has been in years. So here we are, guys. Washington, D.C. is clearly at a crossroads. On the one side, protests erupting in the streets, furious voices screaming fascism, accusing President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi of going too far. But on the other side, families who haven't felt safe in years now walking freely through their neighborhoods, whispering thank you to officers who finally brought order back to their capital. And that's the situation. Law and order versus civil unrest. Pam Bondi's Department of Justice has seized 59 guns, torn down graffiti, cleared encampments, and made the monument shine again. Trump and his team, they're saying that they're going to stop at nothing to keep Americans safe, even if it means lawsuits against sanctuary cities, cutting off the federal funds, or sending in the National Guard. Now, critics say it's authoritarian, supporters say it's leadership, and now you're the one that has to decide here. Do you stand with Trump and Bondi, the team actually making Washington safer than it's been in decades? Or do you stand with the chaos in the streets, the people who would rather chant, riot, and call names than admit that law and order has finally been restored? So, because really, no matter how loud the protests get, the results speak for themselves. The Capitol is safer, families are freer, and America is stronger under President Donald J. Trump's leadership. Now, YouTube thinks you're really going to love the next video that just popped up on your screen right there. Go ahead, click it right now, keep watching, and stay informed. Trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming up next.